So one of the big game releases recently is actually an indie game that no one expected, no one knew about, and was made by basically one person. It is a trombone game that I forget the name of, but I'm going to call it the trombone game. What is the trombone game called? I should look this up.
Trombone Champ. I
Yeah,
just
Trombone
Googled it.
Champ. There we go.
By
Um,
typing in trombone game, it came up with the name Trombone Champ.
yeah, it basically is it's Guitar Hero, but with the trombone and a bit messed up. And I'm so here for that because more games need to incorporate weird classical instruments.
And it looks like it's got Nintendo's Mii's.
It has, yeah, it looks like Wii Music.
Yeah.
Which is
But
not a
good.
good thing. That's concerning. However, I'm here for it because it's been taking the world by storm. And I guess it sort of got me thinking about a lot of music games just in general and how a lot of them tend to steer away from actually replicating the experience of playing an instrument. Because there was a period in time around the Guitar Hero era of video games where it was literally the main important thing, but now it's not so much. Now a lot of rhythm games are more theater rhythm style or Miku style, where it's more about button presses and timing with that.
You know why
So
I
I
reckon
guess-
that is?
Why?
I have a theory about this, and I've actually thought about this before the podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought about it in quite length, in quite depth, because it kind of also applies to why I think we haven't had any kind of dancing games as such. And it's actually with a rhythm game, right? The way that scoring works, or the way that they have to be designed, is you have to be kind of almost a metronome in terms of being, exactly on the beat, right? You have to be hit the note at exactly the right moment to get the good score, right? But you don't quite play music that way, because music's a more kind of creative process, right?
It does depend on the genre. If you're doing classical, you have to play it perfect. Otherwise,
even
you
with-
are
even
seen as
within-
wrong.
Even within that, there are variations to how you play the music, right? The way that you perform the music has variations, not necessarily with the timing, but the emphasis on the way that you play the instrument varies. That's why you have good musicians, are not just people that have memorized the music. Lots of people can memorize the music. A good musician is the way that you perform the music, and that is something that video games can't recreate very effectively in most cases. So I think that's kind of the fundamental reason that not so many people try to recreate the experience of playing an instrument anymore, because you can't really put that into a video game in a way that feels truly authentic. That's my theory anyway.
I mean, it makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I figure that also people don't want to play something that's hard, and if you're playing a game, you probably don't want to overcomplicate it. I guess that's why Guitar Hero was so successful, because it replicated the energy of playing guitar, but without having to actually go through the process of learning bar chords, learning finger positions, learning, how like music works, I guess.
Well, there is certainly that too, that like learning an instrument, you don't do that over the course of a tutorial. You kind of,
No.
It takes a little bit longer than that to learn how to play a musical instrument. So, yeah, a rhythm game that tries to, there was one, wasn't there? There was like
Rocksmith, yeah.
Ubisoft created one.
Rocksmith is more of a teaching game. It's not really a game.
Yeah, hardcore teaching game. And
closer to like Type Quick on
Yeah.
like the PC for teaching typing, but for guitar, which is, again, that's a fantastic vehicle to do that with.
See, I want more stuff like that. I'm really down for like Illumi, but it's never released in Australia. You can get it in the UK, you can get it in like America, but you can't ship it to Australia. And then like all the rights for like music and stuff like that makes it hard to like get access to the app. So it's not worth importing. But I'm down for having like buying something like cheap and plasticky, but it has lights on it or something like that, just so I can actually play an actual real instrument, but have like some link it up to like a console or something for it to be gamified to like, learn actual real music.
Yeah, that's the hard thing though, because I guess that's, when I was a kid at least, the issue that I faced a lot with any sort of rhythm game or music game was buying the peripherals. And because they were expensive, I don't know if you guys remember, but when Guitar Hero World Tour came out and it had the drum set, it had the microphone, it had the guitar. Like, it's a lot of money back in the day. It was like 150 Australian dollars. And literally, like, the one rich kid in my class had it. And that was it. Because it was just not approachable for anyone else, like, monetarily. Which I guess then is then leading back into Matt's thing of, that's why I guess a lot of rhythm games then became button-based or touchscreen based, because they were more approachable, more people had them. And having things like Tap Tap Revenge on the iPhone in 2009 was more approachable for most people than buying a PlayStation and buying Guitar Hero and buying the controllers and buying the drum kit that's bigger than my entire bedroom. Like,
and I mean, I think the point of rhythm games is really to celebrate the music more than the act of playing music, right? With very few exceptions, but the theatrhythm, which we mentioned earlier, they announced a new one of that one, and it's going to have something you've seen, like 500 tracks of music or something.
That's mental to me, but also fully believable, because, like, Jesus, they've got a bloody good set to pick from.
It's Final Fantasy music, so of course they need to have like all the songs in there because people love that music, and it doesn't matter whether it feels like you're playing an instrument or not to play that game. It's more about, like I said, celebrating the music, tapping along to Good King Mog rather than feeling like you're doing a performance.
Of course, to Good King Mog.
I brought it up. I got it in there.
But he's done it.
Tapping along to it and enjoying the music rather than feeling like you're doing a performance of it is kind of the point, I think, of most rhythm games. Beyond that, I do think that video games would be a great way for teaching people how to play music.
I mean, Rocksmith is apparently quite good. I also don't think that it's necessary, personally, most of the time, just because if you're going to learn an instrument, your personal drive should be enough to carry you through the first 6 months where you suck.
Yes and no. I think a lot of people do better when they have kind of structure about how they do stuff. I know I do. If I want to learn something, I go kind of all in with learning it, but teaching myself doesn't work so well as having some kind of assistant there.
That's why I still suck at violin. Like, when I was like actually doing lessons, like, even though I didn't practice, like, I was actually like learning. Yeah.
Even though I didn't actually practice, the story of most kids doing music instruments.
Like when I
pretty much.
And also me in university for my first 2 years.
When I learned Japanese, I mean, having Duolingo there was certainly useful. It wasn't entirely necessary as such. I could have taught myself in other ways.
I mean, I did a university subject in Japanese and got told that I should stop because it was going to be very, very hard. And they were right, and I should have stopped.
So yeah, I mean, having that kind of structure, having a Duolingo as such for music would be a useful way of gamifying the learning process. I don't know how many instruments you could teach that way. Percussion's for sure. Drums, piano, that'd be fine. But learning the flute might be a little bit hard through a rhythm game.
I'm not being funny. I cannot imagine a single worse thing than having to learn a flute through an online video or a game or anything like that. It just would not work. You would be
I feel like you could have done the violin with like the Wii mote and like the nunchuck, and like have the nunchuck as like the string, but like the remote you'd then like have over the top of the nunchuck, like for like the bow.
I feel like you could probably do it if you had an extra peripheral that the nunchuck plugged into and that would then react to. You know what I mean? Like if it was, like if you held the nunchuck in a different way, it was like in a plastic case or something that had your neck going into the regular rest position, that'd be fine, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or you had another Wiimote and then you put the Wiimote in the other one, and then so you have two. And then you
do the thing where you need like 7 different Wii remotes for a single game.
Yeah, and then it'll be like motion control. So it'll be like all about balance and stuff based off like how you're holding like the plastic peripheral. And then, then that comes into play.
We all played Wii Music, right? At some point.
That was good fun. I enjoyed it.
It was rubbish. It made me so angry.
It was good fun.
No, I don't know how you can look at that game and not be just like, this sucks. This is the same thing as going to like a baby's marimba and just slapping the the keys on it and being like, make noise.
Okay,
Yay.
now I've got an amusing little story, I guess, about Wii Music. You know how you could record kind of your performances, right, and you could watch them back later.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
So we were looking through it because my brother owned the copy. It wasn't, myself and my friend were looking through it, and we were looking at some of the videos that he'd recorded. And there was this one of him doing a piano solo of one of the songs, and he was doing it absolutely perfect. Like he was hitting the beat and getting the timing absolutely perfect. And it was pretty impressive, actually. And then he got to the end of it, and it was all just like the most beautifully controlled performance of this Wii Music thing as possible. And then just at the end, when the music stops before it kind of fades to black and you can kind of just bash around, then he just started to bash the piano. And it was just like, yeah, he's just letting loose now. It had moments, the Wii Music. It had moments.
It's the game that
it had
you
moments
play once and then never again.
It was a fun little toy. Like that's what it was. It was a quirky.
Yeah, it was a children's piano.
It
wasn't an actual piano.
It wasn't even that. It was just a toy. it was, I don't know. It was just a really creative little project, playing around with sound. It wasn't really I don't know what people had in mind about what it was going to be, but it wasn't that. that's the thing.
I don't think they even knew how to market it, to be fair.
That's the thing. It was like, I just don't know if people it didn't meet people's expectations, because I don't think it was anything you could possibly expect. It's probably Nintendo's most creative game, like in a long time, before and after. Just pure creative.
Its biggest failure as a result of that.
Yeah, possibly.
Because it did not sell well at all.
But we are talking about, a creative industry. The games industry is an artistic industry and all that. And I genuinely think Wii Music is a work of art. It doesn't necessarily work for a lot of people, and it didn't sell particularly well, and it didn't get great reviews, but it was what I'd like to see in the games industry, is more of that kind of unfiltered creativity and just purely experimental projects.
It's just
they don't have to work. They don't have to always work. They don't have to always work. If everything in art had to work all the time, we're creating, a factory lineup of soup cans. We're not creating art. I just think that's what we should be encouraging, more of stuff like Wii Music.
Yeah.
I feel like the E3 hurt Wii Music the most. Like having that as showing it off, doing the orchestra thing. Everyone's just like, what is this? Why is it taking up the whole presentation? And then that
did
just
look
ruined
rubbish.
the game. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like I'm just hoping that there is a trend towards more music games that are coming out. I want to see more flute games. Xenoblade 3 is a flute game, and that makes me very happy. But I want more. I want more weird instruments. I want an accordion game where you have to do something with the two sticks to squeeze in and squeeze out, and then your fingers on the triggers control buttons or something like that. I would love that. That's my jam. More stuff needs to be done like that. And I think the reason the trombone game is.
I'd like to see more games kind of also do something to preserve kind of world instruments. So
yeah,
instruments that people don't know much about. And give them a chance to kind of experience them, because
give me an Indonesian gamelan game.
Well, let's face it, if you're going to try and find one of those, it's going to be very expensive, and you're not going to be able to create any sound with it anyway. So give people a chance to mess with one digitally, and just at least experience what it sounds like and looks like.
That might be what VR does in the future, in all honesty.
Yeah. So those kinds of things would be good. There's a lot of stuff with the rhythm game or the music game space that could be untapped. I think it's probably one of the most conservative genres, in the sense that there's a formula that kind of works, right? So
press button in time, win.
With music, yeah. And I don't think that needs to be where it's limited to. I think there's a lot of stuff that could be happening with rhythm games that I think it's a relatively easy genre to make, in the sense that it's kind of the format's there. So you just get music, right? And you create the note maps, and you create the interface, and if you've done a good job with all of those things, then you've got a game that people are going to enjoy. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, the ease of which you can do that means that there is an encouragement there. There is not encouragement there to play around and try different things. So I would really like to see more from the music industry, or for the music game industry. I'd like to see more creativity, more experimentation. That trombone game is a neat touch, and certainly quirky, but yeah, I just like to see different things tried.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to score as well, and hard to like have a meaningful success metric with music as well. Like as you say, it's obviously it's an art form. There's no like right or wrong necessarily, although some people will tell you there's a right and wrong, and I think they're idiots. And it's very difficult to, I guess, have that understanding and then also try to make a video game out of it at the same time. And I think the reason I like Trombone Champ so much is because it does allow you to play wrong notes. Because one of the things that I think is really defining for a lot of music students, at least, is the realization that a wrong note played at the right time is still in time. You're still doing it. But a wrong note played at the wrong time it's bad. And then a wrong note played at the right time is fine. Like it's that idea that it's about rhythm, about that sort of pulse and that feeling to it. And Trombone Champ is the first one that I've seen to actually incorporate elements of that and to use it for, in this case, comedy, because it is inherently funny to hear like a trombone toot when it's not meant to be there, and when it's, take me out to the ball game. That's hilarious. And it's been funny for me since I was a little kid, because you hear trombones and like, that's a great instrument. I love that. But a lot of these games don't embrace mistakes as much as they should. Because if you make a mistake in Guitar Hero, it's like a sound. Whereas if you make a mistake on a guitar, it's usually like a bleh, like I played the wrong note. But embrace that and run with that. And I like that.
I'd just like to see more games try and do something about the performance side of music more. Rather
dressing
than
up in performance blacks and hating yourself, and then having a coffee beforehand.
Not in terms of the aesthetics, but more in terms of trying to capture what it is like to have texture in performing music in whatever way, whether it's playing music or also the kind of the dance games as such, where instead of just stomping down on the mat at certain times or waggling your remote in Just Dance in time with the music, I would really like for games to recognize that music is textured and that there's nuance in performance, and there is interpretation in how you hear the music, how you feel the music, how you respond to the music, and finding some way to reward players that perform music as opposed to just kind of hit the metronome beats. That would be nice for me.
Just add vibrato to everything.
Rather than have
yes.
rather than challenge you on how good you can be as kind of a metronome timer, it'd be nice to have some kind of effort to encourage people to play music. And really, that's what we music was doing, whether it's successful or not, or it wasn't successful. But that's what it was actually trying to do. It wasn't trying to be a rhythm game. It was trying to encourage you to play music. And I would like to see more efforts of that.
For some reason during Matt's rant, I just sort of like zoned out. And then I was like, what about a musical game where it's like, you're like a stagehand for a musical, and then you have to like, it's like a life sim as well. So you go to work, which is the musical, and then you like move things and props and stuff around and do the lighting one day or whatever. Like you do jobs, and one of the jobs is doing the lighting, or the next day you're doing another job, which is like, doing music or something like that. But it's like a life sim or something. That would be fun.
There's potential in that as like a 2-point campus style game. Like 2-point theater.
2-point theater.
Hire me.
2-point theater.
Like genuinely, if like manage different things that are happening in your theater.
That'd be pretty hard because you just go bankrupt every single time.
Yeah, you
Well,
put on
that's
a
how
single
musicals
student
work.
show and you'd be like, why did I do that? I've lost £1 million. Like,
Yeah, there's
what
no
am I
way
doing?
there's no way to be profitable. You just it's hard mode constantly.
You
Yeah.
got back 70% of the money you spent.
That's a
That's
pretty good
ambitious.
performance.
I'd say
that's a
that's
a
good.
sellout. That's a
That's
sellout
well
theater,
done.
that is.
Yeah.